Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E Fantasy. We are also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
This episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we are recapping all Week 12 action. We will get you ready for Week 13. But first, here's the latest league news, Jeff.
So the New Orleans Saints have cut wide receiver Brandon Cooks. They manipulated his contract a little bit so he wouldn't get claimed on waivers. And then on Tuesday, he was signed with the Buffalo Bills to the active roster. So he is not on the practice squad. He could get a start as early as Sunday. I believe they're playing Sunday.
Yeah. Do we think this is a good move, though? We've seen the Bills go after a veteran midway through the season before with Amari Cooper, and that didn't work out that great. I mean, he had some moments like the toss to Allen for a touchdown. But do we think Brandon Cooks has anything left?
I'm not so sure, but if he has anything left in the tank, I believe Josh Allen will be the one to get it out of him. So there's that.
So right now, only Shakir and James Cook are providing any value at all, and sometimes Kincaid. So you would think at a minimum it's level with the other wide receivers on this roster, and hopefully he does have something left that he didn't show with the Saints.
Absolutely. I don't know if he's even worth the stash at this point. I was just thinking about that in my head. So I'm sure there'll be people.
Haven't even tried to pick them up. I have a couple leagues where you can just pick up someone if they're available, and I haven't bothered.
Yeah, either have I. So, and I have not seen him picked up just yet, but I assume a desperate person will do it eventually. So we will see who and how he does actually. So I think he could play as early as Sunday. All right. So next up, one of your favorites got cut also. The Texans cut running back. I wanted to say wide receiver there, but running back Dameon Pierce. And he, on Sunday during the game, signed with the Chiefs practice squad. I don't think it was official during the games, but it is official now. What do you make of this here?
Well, he apparently had a ton of interest from other teams, but he narrowed it down to the Chiefs. I don't know why the Eagles were looking at him, because I feel like their running back room is pretty set, but with the disaster that they had in special teams, maybe they want a different returner. But Kansas City, I think he is pretty parallel with Pacheco. Arguably he's a downgrade from Pacheco, but he's pretty close to him. He's better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire at this point in their careers. So he's probably running back 3 for them, unless you count Rashard Smith over him.
Yeah, I mean, Rashard Smith is not on my favorite list because there was a week where he was supposed to be heavily involved and I think he had like 5 or 10 yards. And I was a little upset with that because Pacheco being out, I didn't think Hunt would take the entire backfield, and he has taken the entire backfield in some games.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of that, but I can't argue that he hasn't been effective when they needed him.
All right. Are you ready to hop over to the Week 12 recap?
Yeah, let's do it. And just a reminder, the Broncos, Chargers, Dolphins, and Commanders were all on bye for Week 12. And let's get kick-started here with the Thursday night matchup, the Buffalo Bills at the Houston Texans. D'Amico Ryans and the Texans have the Bills number. All three of us, so including Jerome as well, all went the Bills. And the Bills lost to the Texans in a very, very close matchup, 23-19, mostly headlined by the Houston Texans defense.
Absolutely. Allen walked away with 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So you can thank the defense. He did hold on to the ball a bit too long for my liking, but we can credit the defense with that as well. But that's what happens when you have a quarterback that thinks he can make a play on every play, and sometimes he just holds the ball too long. But James Cook and Khalil Shakir were the two bright spots. Khalil Shakir almost brought the Bills back in this game. There was some really cool trick plays. One specifically that's coming to mind right now that kind of put the Bills into field goal range, but obviously they were down 4, so they weren't able to punch it in. And Davis Mills does just enough with 153 yards passing for the win. And Woody Marks has completely taken over the backfield, 16 carries for him and 6 for Chubb. But all 3 of us picked the Bills in this game. All 3 of us were wrong. And I want to send a shout out to Jerome. Thank you very much for filling in. And we know Alex had to come back on the podcast just to talk about his Texans beating the Bills. Like, that was literally the antithesis of this.
Yeah, I've been out for the past few weeks with the birth of my twin sons, and coincidentally enough, the Texans won 3 games back to back after that. So, gonna credit my sons for the Texans' victory. Um, I appreciate Jerome filling in, and he's more than welcome to come back because I think he did a great job. Maybe one day when this is official and we actually make money, maybe we'll have him as a full-time member then. But man, the Texans, I love this defense. Offense is still working out their kinks and still have issues. I think it's an identity crisis for the offense, and they're not on the same page, but it looks like slowly but surely they're making progress. I mean, 2 offensive touchdowns is an improvement based off of what they've done this season. So Davis Mills did a good job. I don't think he did a good enough job to hold on to the starting job. CJ is most likely going to get cleared this week and play against the Colts in week 13. And we can talk about that when we get closer to that point.
Yeah, I was a little confused yesterday when he wasn't cleared because it was all assumed if he played on Sunday, he would have played, or if they would have played on Sunday instead of Thursday, he would have played. But on Monday, he still hadn't been cleared out of concussion protocol yet. So that hurt my head a little bit. And Alex believes that it'll happen this week. So
Did you get a concussion from the injury report or what? A little
yeah,
whiplash?
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
don't know either, but I think he's going to be cleared this week. Last time he had a concussion, it was a three-game concussion absence. 3-game absence for the concussion.
It's kind of a long time, so it is something to just keep in the back of your mind as time goes on here. All right, let's hop over to Sunday slate. No early game this week. All 3 of us picked the Chiefs in this matchup. It was the Colts at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs squeak out a close victory in overtime, 23-20. Both teams in this game here did seem evenly matched, so that was something that I noted, especially for the postseason coming up. And Jonathan Taylor doesn't have a great game with 58 yards on the ground. Mahomes doesn't throw for a touchdown, but 352 passing yards, so that's a interesting. Has that ever happened for Mahomes if he's thrown over 300 yards and no touchdowns? Have to dig back a little bit. And we have Kareem Hunt with 30 carries in this game. I know we've talked about him a little bit earlier in the podcast, but 104 yards and a touchdown. Rashee Rice shows back up in the box score as well with 12 targets, 8 catches, and 141 yards. No scores, though.
Rashee Rice started off the game with a pretty poor performance and then just shot off later on in the game. But I think the Chiefs are almost back. It's a little bittersweet for me as a Texans fan because I was like, I guess it's a win-win either way because either the Chiefs lose and gives the Texans a better chance at the wild card, or the Chiefs win and give the Texans a better chance at the division title potentially. But yeah, I think the Chiefs are fighting back into the playoff picture, and I think they'll probably make it. And I think the Colts they're starting their harder part of their schedule, and so they're going to come back down to earth.
All right. We will see, but to give up 300 plus yards to Mahomes, have his weapons perform well, and only lose by 3 on the road in overtime has to be a moral victory. I know those don't exist in the NFL, but that's as close to a victory as you could come without getting one, is overtime.
So they traded 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner and then got shredded by Mahomes right
No
after
passing
that.
touchdowns, though. You know,
I,
what was funny this week is I've had a conversation specifically about fantasy yards on defenses, because that goes counterintuitive to what a defense does in the NFL. Like, a defense doesn't talk about allowing 0 yards a game, they talk about allowing 0 points. So, like, the Buffalo Bills will be bend but don't break. And that's not rewarded in fantasy. Fantasy sometimes rewards off of yards allowed in a game, and I think that's just wrong.
I think sometimes you have to account for starting field position. So, say an offense turns over the ball on their own side of the field and puts the defense in a bad position. At a minimum, the other team is going to get a field goal, which is going to count against the defense. And I don't think that that's necessarily fair because it's not the defense's fault that they got there. And the defense did well holding them only to a field goal. So, how do you compensate for that?
That is a great question. Yeah, that is a great question. I feel like there has to be a better way to score defense, and don't say IDP out there because I don't believe in IDP. But there has to be a better way out there to score defense. I've figured out the best way to score kicking, and no one can convince me otherwise, where every kicker gets a 0.1 per yard that the field goal is kicked over 30 yards. So
Yeah. I don't like IDP either because it rewards bad defensive players rather than good ones. Like, obviously, you have a Myles Garrett who's going to probably break the sack record this year on a bad Cleveland team. I mean, he's a case of what you're supposed to reward. But then you have Miami's linebacker who has so many tackles so far in the season that he's a top 5 IDP scorer. And then you think about corners and other like star players in the secondary, they get targeted less, so they're not going to have passes defense and they're not going to have interceptions because teams avoid them. So I don't like IDP. It's counter to what you're supposed to track. So I agree with you there. As far as defensive scoring, I know there's some leagues out there that don't count special team scoring for defensive points. So like return touchdowns don't count.
interesting. That is weird. All right, anything left on the Chiefs and the Colts? It was a great game for the early window.
Yeah, it was a good game with 2 potential playoff teams. I do think the Chiefs' MO is winning ugly, so I don't necessarily think that means the Colts are as good as they started off the year as.
Absolutely. There's still better days ahead for Jonathan Taylor, one would think. So Chiefs defensive line is still pretty stout, so, and they did show up today or on Sunday. All right, so we have the Vikings at the Packers. All 3 of us picked the Packers. The Vikings were terrible again with McCarthy at quarterback. They lose 23-6. McCarthy musters 87 passing yards. Apparently he is in concussion protocol as well now. So I don't know if this game was just bad enough to send him to concussion protocol, or I don't know what's legit and not legit anymore. And then when you add in Justin Jefferson just not being a wide receiver 1 with McCarthy, that's really scary to own Justin Jefferson right now. I know I've been fielding offers in the leagues where I have him. And on the flip side here, Jordan Love is banged up, so he decided to be a little bit of a game manager this game. And he game managed himself through 139 passing yards. And Emmanuel Wilson ended up filling in for Josh Jacobs and does 28 carries, 107 yards, so he broke the century mark, and 2 touchdowns. He was easily one of the best fill-ins of the season so far. So what did you take away from this game?
I don't think Jordan Love is that good of a quarterback, so I think they're stuck with him. I don't know what his guaranteed money is like. So I know you said he's banged up, but he was banged up last year, and he hasn't been good since his first year. So I think they're limited there, and if that's the case, we don't even know how good their wide receiver core can even be. They haven't used Matthew Golden at all, really, and he was a first round pick for them. I, I'm I find it weird that they just pick a running back and just use him as a workhorse, no matter who it is. My boy Marshawn Lloyd might be coming back week 13 or week 14, so I will be very curious if he gets involved at all. But Packers are not as good as I thought they'd be, but their defense has played well. Vikings have just cratered ever since McCarthy took over, and McCarthy he doesn't look good. He's not ready. I don't know if he's even been coached. I don't know what the deal is because he doesn't seem like he's playing like someone who is coached up very well. So maybe Kevin O'Connell just he can only work with veterans. I don't know. Maybe he's not a guru.
Possibly, or this is his only. This really is his first attempt. So I want to be cautious, but I hear what you're saying.
And I threw out in the X verse. I threw out a rant about what the Bengals and Vikings could do and swapping quarterbacks and Vikings throwing some more picks their way to get Joe Burrow and reunite him with one of his college wide receivers, Justin Jefferson.
They could do it.
The Vikings are a team ready to win now. Yes, they still have some holes. Bengals are not. Bengals have a lot of issues, and I don't think even a healthy Joe Burrow is gonna save their season. But rough game for the Vikings.
Yeah, you're given a spoiler coming up that someone is about to be back in the lineup. But before we get to next week's game, they did play the Patriots at home, the Bengals did. And in this particular matchup here, you and I picked the Patriots, Jerome picked the Bengals. The Patriots took a little while to get going. Drake May took a little while to get going, and 26-20 victory. Henderson leads the back role with Stevenson coming back, but not much to be seen from Stevenson in this one. I know he got a few carries, but not a lot of production. And Hunter Henry, which is one of your faves, he leads the passing week for the Patriots, which is interesting because it feels like they have a different pass catcher leading every week. And Joe Flacco, as we had just mentioned, it's going to be his last start because Joe Burrow should be returning to the lineup on Thanksgiving. And Chase Brown goes over the century mark, first time this year any running back has against New England. And T. Higgins gets a concussion and will miss the upcoming week. So I do like your trade. First of all, I want to say that I've been slamming the table that Joe Burrow next year could be a 3-time comeback player of the year. And that's really bad at 29. Like, how do you come back from things 3 times by the age of 29? The Bengals probably should get a better return on their investment, and they could rebuild their entire team by trading Joe Burrow.
Yeah. I think so. I think they could get maybe as many as 3 first-round picks, and they could get a young quarterback like JJ to pair with maybe re-signing Joe Flacco and keep him there for another season while they retool literally everything else.
How long does Flacco last in the NFL, though?
I mean, I think he could go maybe another season. Like I think
Longer than
literally
Brady.
maybe another season.
Longer than Brady.
Mhm.
What was
But
your take on the slow start by the Patriots here?
I think that the Bengals defense played really hard the first quarter or so. Really, they played hard the whole game, honestly. But I I attribute a lot of the slow start on trying to incorporate Ramondre Stevenson back, and he was not effective at all. So I think his time sharing the workload is done, and I think they need to stick with Henderson. I really like that they got Hunter Henry going because I think he's their best weapon.
Yeah, I mean, I like me some Stefan Diggs, but I hear what you're saying. Anything
And,
else on this matchup here?
Diggs, his first year was guaranteed. They can get out of his contract pretty easily.
Yeah, I don't see them doing that as of right now, but I feel like that would be a silly backwards move by the Patriots. Very Bill Belichick, if you will. We don't need receivers.
They have
Hmm.
receivers. They have Boutte. They drafted Kyle Williams pretty high. They have Pop Douglas. I mean, I think they're pretty well situated, and they kind of needed a vet to smooth things over, but these guys are going to be vets pretty soon.
Absolutely. Anything else on this one here?
Did we discuss that Jamar Chase missed this one because he spat on a player the previous week?
Yeah, we talked about that last week that he was going to miss this one, and sadly he did. And I know Chase owners are going to be happy to have Burrow back next week, although Flacco has been doing a pretty good job of feeding one Jamar Chase.
I needed Jamar Chase in a league, and
Me
he
too.
ruined my hopes. He ruined my hopes. All
Me too.
right, let's go to the Giants at the Lions. Giants put up a big fight in this. There is a lot of one-score matchups this week, and a lot of scrappy, bad teams putting up a big fight. I thought the Giants were gonna get the win in this one because the Lions looked really rough. We all picked the Lions. They ended up winning 34-27. But man, um, Giants might be closer to competing than people give them credit at this point, especially when they get their quarterback and running back and Right. supplement the team in the draft and offseason. But Jeff, really fun game, especially from Mr. Winston.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be his last one, though. Maybe his last rodeo of the year, as Jackson Dart should return to the lineup. But we'll see if he can clear concussion protocol. I feel like we're just doing a echo in here. But can you believe that Winston not only threw for 2 touchdowns, but also caught another touchdown on a amazing trick play against the Lions, who used to be the masters of the trick play. So that was a little funny to me to watch that happen to them. Wandell Robinson, which I know is not one of your favorite players, he had a great day though here with 9 catches, 156 yards, and a touchdown. That's what he can do with a gunslinger. He's worth it. And then you also have Jared Goff having a very up and down game, but he gets it together when it counts. But Jahmyr Gibbs is having the unreal season here, 219 yards on the ground and 11 catches. So he is an absolute PPR, half point PPR, even standard. He's a stud right now. And he was my pick for Offensive Player of the Year. And he is very much in the conversation of it right now. I know you would say JSN, but he has to be in the conversation for it right now because he is going to pass 2,000 yards combined this year. And St. Brown finally jumps off of his milk carton, where he's been missing for a while, to go 9 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown. So it's good to see him back in the box score. But because he's off of the milk carton, we had to put Jamison Williams on the milk carton because he was absent from the box score this week.
Well, let's not forget about Tyrone Tracy, the running back for the Giants. He had 130 scrimmage yards in this one. So it looks like the running backs and one wide receiver for both teams. It was pretty interesting, pretty evenly matched there. Do you think Mike Kafka is going to keep the Giants job because he was already someone being named as a head coaching candidate for other teams, might the Giants just hire him to replace Dable?
They could. I think you know how I feel about the interim guy. I don't feel great about it, but we will see what he can do
Well,
the rest
he's
of
an
the season.
offensive guy.
Hmm.
He's a former quarterback. He's an offensive guy. And he was in line to interview for the Titans job as well as a couple other jobs. So he was a serious candidate for other teams. I think this is the exception. Like, yes, Pierce had some success, which we could talk about. Pierce versus Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is making Pierce look like he was an actual good hire now, but I think Kafka could be the exception, and I don't think the Giants should want him to get away.
Yeah, I mean, I have to see what the rest of the season looks like. Um, what he's done with Jameis Winston this last 2 weeks. Like Jameis Winston is that guy normally, so I don't really know how much of that was his coaching. Also, blowing late leads was a Dable thing, and it's kind of continued with Kafka as well. Kafka, how do you say his name?
Kafka. That they
Kafka.
fired. He just fired the defensive coordinator, so maybe
Yep.
that changes.
Absolutely. So we'll see. He's gonna have to show some improvement in like holding leads, and I mean they're still the Giants, so we have to be temper expectations of them because they are the Giants. But
The miss they were missing their starting quarterback, missing their starting running back, and missing their superstar wide receiver, and they were still putting up points against a pretty good Lions defense.
yep, absolutely. So, but you have to remember this is Jameis. I don't know if Dart would have done this. So,
Yeah, we'll see. With Dart back, we will certainly see how it shakes out.
and that's the big thing though is Dart. So we will see. All right. Anything else on your Lions getting an impressive come from behind victory?
I mean, I would like to see Montgomery be effective, but he looks like dust right now.
He
And
might have hit the wall.
yeah, and obviously, I would like Isaac Tesla to get involved, especially if your star tight end is out. I mean, you got to have a third person, but they like Brock Wright, and I mean, he's been doing pretty good.
Right. Let's hop over to the Jets at the Ravens. So all these games felt really weird in the 1 o'clock window because it felt like the wrong team was winning at a certain time, and then everything flipped, and the team that we thought was going to win eventually did win. And that was the case here. We all picked the Ravens, and the Ravens got it going late, and they bounced back with a victory 23-10. 23-10 is not very good against the Jets considering how many defensive pieces they traded away. And they were starting Tyrod, who threw a respectable 222 yards passing, which I believe is more than Justin Fields combined in the previous 2 games. Not to slam Justin Fields, but Brees Hall is the beneficiary of this, where he went 4 catches for 75 yards. He did have a fumble that kind of cost them some points. So that was the good with the bad with Brees Hall, who is going to be a free agent after this year, as Alex and I were talking offline. And John Mechie and Edie Mitchell show some chemistry with Tyrod. So a little bit better chemistry with Mitchell than Fields had with as in regards to Tyrod Taylor. Mechie was very good with Tyrod. He's going to be a pickup this week in waivers. I'm not sure I would start him because I'm not sure how much longer Garrett Wilson's going to be out. And we have Lamar not having a great game, but Henry scores 2 touchdowns. I kind of expected Henry to go more off in this game, but that did not happen. Was there anything unusual that you noticed in this one?
I think the Jets, at least the defensive side, is still playing pretty hard. I don't think Tyrod Taylor was that much of a boost over Fields, but he was slightly better passing the ball, whereas Fields contributes more on the ground at this stage in their careers. But running was pretty hard for both of these teams, and Ooh. The Ravens still look pretty rough. As a team that has a former MVP and has been perennially in the playoffs since Lamar Jackson was drafted, I don't know exactly what's wrong with this team, but it doesn't look good. And Zay Flowers is now like he's been a wide receiver three. I know a lot of people have tried to make him into like a wide receiver two and a legitimate number one on his actual team, but he's not been that good. He only has one touchdown on the season.
Yeah, that's not great.
He's actually, if you look at his 3 seasons in the league, his touchdowns are going down. His rookie year he had 5. Last year he had 4. This year I think he's on pace to have 2.
Some of that is the ineptitude of the offense, but
Well, his yards per game is going up though.
yeah, touchdowns always feel fluky though to me. If you're producing, they're eventually going to come. I just don't know when. So not great, regardless. And right, anything else?
Nope.
Don't
I
really
I
like
think
Lamar.
yeah, and I think un there's something wrong with Lamar. Like he's like smirking on the sidelines and making weird faces. I don't know if like he's just completely dissatisfied and checked out or what, or if he just didn't feel like playing hard against the Jets. But unlike the Chiefs, I still feel like there's a good chance the Ravens might not make it if especially the Steelers hang in there. If the Steelers drop off, then the Ravens will make it almost by default.
Yeah. I mean, as we saw, and spoiler alert, we'll get to it in this next game here, but they did take the Bears to the limit with Mason Rudolph. So, I mean, they're not going to go away, the Steelers. So, I think those matchups that they have against each other, I think they still have both of them left. And those are going to be the pivotal matchups of the division, in my opinion. Even with Burrow coming back, like I don't even care about that. Like I think this is a stupid
Oh.
decision.
Yeah, it's a bad long-term decision for Cincinnati, but in the short term, they can spoil the Ravens.
That's true. That's true. But they could also spoil Pittsburgh, so they might just spoil everybody. uh, all right. Anything else here? All right, let's hop over to the Steelers at the Bears. All three of us picked the Bears. The Bears did win, as I had mentioned a second ago. Steelers got off to an early lead, and it took the Bears coming back late to win it 31-28. Mason Rudolph really benefited his backs here. He gave Gainwell over 100 yards combined and Warren a touchdown. So the backs were well fed in this one. That's kind of where I thought this was going just from the previous week because Gainwell went off with Rudolph. It just felt like Rudolph he's not really using his wide receivers that much. So this kind of checks out and Aaron Rodgers should be back next week as the medical team just wouldn't clear him. So he should be back in relatively short order. And I'm not in a healthy Rodgers in this game. They might have won. And Caleb Williams throws for 3 touchdown passes. Monangai here out carries Swift 12-8, and he scores again. Before I ask you about that tide, DJ Moore does lead the way here. As you think it's going to be an Odunze, Burden, wide receiver core, DJ Moore just reminds us that he's still lurking out there. But Monangai, do you believe that the tide is shifting there with Swift and Monangai?
Well, I think they're filling out different roles. I think Monangai is the bruiser, and Swift is the utility back and third down back, receiving back. Um, not neither one really got enough carries or enough touches, in my opinion. It doesn't seem like the Bears had that many plays ran in general. And I still don't think Caleb Williams is that good. I think he got lucky. with some of his passes. Um, I think both of these teams might end up in the playoffs, but I think they've been very fortunate with their schedules so far, and I think it's going to get harder for both of these teams, and they might be looking on the outside, looking in when the playoff race hits.
I mean, the Bears are in the driver's seat right now, so there is that.
You think that the Bears are better than the Lions or the Packers? Because I don't.
Yeah, I don't believe that they're better, but I will say that they are standings wise ahead of them, and we will see what the stretch has here. I think they only have one more game against Detroit, and Green Bay has that ridiculous tie on their record that is going to throw a little wrench in the standings there. Also, not sure how good
Well,
Green Bay is.
yeah. Green Bay's defense is pretty solid. Their offense can be good, but it's going to depend on Josh Jacobs being healthy. If Josh Jacobs is healthy, they're going to be pretty good. But if you look at the next matchups for the Bears, they play Philadelphia, which I still think Philadelphia and all their problems is still better than the Bears. Um, they play Green Bay. They play Cleveland, which is a difficult team to play against when Myles Garrett can get 10 sacks in a game. They play Green Bay again. They play San Francisco towards the end of the year, so they should be healthier. And then they close out against Detroit, who might also be fighting for a playoff spot. So I think they can maybe get one or two wins. If they get two, they're at 10 wins. They'll probably make the playoffs. They only get one win in that whole stretch. I don't think they make playoffs.
We will see. I mean, if they make the playoffs, I might come around on Ben Johnson.
I think Ben Johnson's been pretty good, and I think that they have weapons. I don't really buy into Caleb Williams. I don't buy into the defense. The defense, I mean, they played without their top four linebackers against the Steelers, so I think that game was closer because of that. But Bears have a lot of holes on defense, and Caleb Williams makes bad decisions. So I think the Bears are a better team than the Steelers, but I think that game was close because they were banged up teams.
Absolutely. A lot of scoring. Love that. Can't ever complain with a lot of scoring. Um, anything else in this one here? All right, I thought this next matchup here was going to win my Survivor League, and unfortunately, it did move me on to next week, but it did not win it for me because my opponent moved on with the 49ers, and we'll get to that game shortly. But the Seahawks at the Titans here, we all three picked the Seahawks, as I did in Survivor as well. Seahawks get a comfortable lead, and then they coast to a 30-24 victory. It did get a little tight towards the end, but Darnold was mistake-free, and JSN is on a pretty crazy pace as well. I know that's going to be your argument for Offensive Player of the Year, and I can't dissuade you to say that he doesn't deserve it. But Cam Ward looked better than he has this year, so he has shown some progression, especially because his top two receivers in Ridley and Iomanner were out. And DK did step up a bit, and I do like that he is showing some signs of life. So beware about picking teams in Survivor that are playing the Titans right now, because they are going to pull off an upset on one of these teams, maybe as soon as this upcoming week. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I I think Cam Ward was put into a bad situation going to the Titans with how that roster is constructed and the poor coaching staff. So I'm glad he's showing life. I think with a new offensive-minded head coach that actually calls plays and can sit down and develop him, I think he can be a pretty solid quarterback in the league. And a lot of people dismissing him, I think, might start seeing the light. But he's not typically a rushing quarterback, and he had 6 rushing attempts and actually a rushing touchdown. So it's something that he's capable of doing. He just didn't do it in college and wasn't doing it up until this point. So maybe we'll see more quarterback rushes, maybe from shotgun with guys covered down the field. DK is turning into a nice deep threat and a really good punt returner. But I would like to see them add another wide receiver to go with Ayamanor as well in the draft because I think Ridley's done.
Yeah, we were talking about that when you were out. Like, I don't see Ridley having a path forward to back to relevance as Falcon days are so far gone. And I mean, I've just flat out dropped him in even dynasty leagues because I just don't even care where he signs with next year.
Maybe he'll surprise us, but yeah, I'm pretty low on Ridley.
Right. Anything else here? I know it was kind of a
I
boring
yeah,
game.
I mean, their offensive line gets such little push. It's really hard to start the running backs, but I feel like Pollard and Spears should be more effective than what they have been. And maybe with Ward proving something, maybe they'll finally get some space to get something.
Absolutely. All right. This is a game that I know you want to talk about here. It's the Browns at the Raiders. You and Jerome picked the Raiders. I pick the Browns and Shador Sanders' very first start. And Shador wins 24-10. Shador throws for 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So up and down performance, but overall positive for a first time out there. He threw a couple nice bombs that we just didn't see with Dillon Gabriel. He also doesn't look like he's throwing his arm out of socket when he throws deep passes like Dillon Gabriel does. And Judkins adds 2 touchdowns on the ground. And they are sticking with Shador Sanders this upcoming week, which I know pained the head coach. Feels like the head coach is doing everything possible to keep him out of the lineup, and it just didn't work here. It's great to see because he's actually won the job, I believe, by his performance in this game between the two quarterbacks, and I don't think you can dispute that. But the other side, we need to start talking about a QB controversy there too, and we need to talk about Aiden O'Connell being activated and potentially the starting quarterback for the Raiders at some point this season. Do you believe that they switch over to Aiden O'Connell at some point?
I think there's a high likelihood that happens.
What do you got to lose?
I think they will pass less than 44 times per game if Aiden O'Connell starts, but I think the actual passes that he does throw will be higher quality than what Geno Smith has done and better decision making. So they'll be more reliant on Genty and their actual good wide receivers here rather than Tyler Lockett. It's hard for me to crown Shador Sanders on only 11 completions. I mean, that's like Tim Tebow-esque right there. And I also don't think that Stefanski is trying to not make Sanders work. I think he's doing everything in his power to make it work, including preventing him from throwing a red zone interception by going wildcat, and they got the touchdown. So it's hard to argue against that. And they got very fortunate. The Raiders only blitzed on 15% of their snaps. It should have been much higher. Should have been 30 to 40%. They might have actually stayed in this game. I don't know why they went coverage instead of leaning into their strengths and blitzing and putting pressure on the rookie. I don't know what they're doing, but clearly the Raiders are the most incompetent team in the NFL. They just fired their offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, who's the most expensive offensive coordinator in the league. He wasn't cutting it. Hard to blame him with how bad the offensive line has been, coached by Pete Carroll's own son. He should have fired his own sons rather than Chip Kelly, in my opinion. But I think Pete should be a one and done coach. I think he's past it. I had high hopes for him. He was a high profile hire. I had high hopes for Chip Kelly. I think both these guys are not it in the NFL anymore. Chip probably goes back to college and will have success in college. Pete, I mean, I don't know what Pete contributes at this point. They're back to square one. I think Shador has a chance to build on this. They will have more difficult matchups than the Raiders. We will see if he rises to the challenge with more put on his plate. But I think Stefanski has been protecting Shador Sanders from himself, and he was forced to put him in earlier than he wanted to. But this was a good opponent to have his first start.
Yeah, that's what I was screaming from the rooftops last week. This lined up perfectly for him. And I believe he has the 49ers this upcoming week. So I don't think they looked particularly great, the 49ers this week. So we'll get to that game in a bit. But the Browns offensive line is better than the Panthers offensive line in my opinion in their current states. So we'll see what start 2 offers. Hopefully mistake-free football and put some positive things on there, but I can tell you if Myles Garrett and the defense are after Purdy like that, it's going to be pretty scary for Brock Purdy and his foot.
Yep.
Oh,
All right,
wait.
you ready to move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Arizona Cardinals?
Yep, this eliminated one of the teams from my survivor pool. You and Jerome picked the Cardinals. I picked the Jaguars. I feel like the oddball this week, but the Jaguars won 27-24 on the road in overtime. So this was a pretty big win for the Jaguars because this is a game that a team that's not almost there loses almost every time. So they are showing signs that they're almost there, but Trevor Lawrence does show his best and his worst in this matchup here. He throws 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. It's very Jameis Winston-esque. So a little tribute to Jameis Winston on his way back to the bench. Jacoby Brissett throws for 300 yards again. Cardinals backfield's a mess, but Trey Benson's return is looming. His 21-day window is open. Michael Wilson continues to be on a tear, and it's really funny because they say that this tear will continue after Marvin Harrison comes back. And do they need to trade either Marvin Harrison or Michael Wilson in the offseason?
Well, I've been screaming at the mountaintop since they drafted Marvin Harrison that they are redundant. Like, why would you draft Marvin Harrison when you already have Michael Wilson? They're both ex receivers. You don't play 2 ex receivers. And now that Michael Wilson's gotten a chance and he's with a quarterback that will actually throw the ball downfield, which is crucial to that style of ex receiver, he's finally doing well. I don't know if you can repurpose one of them to the slot or to the Z. So I agree they might have to choose. And I think if you can recoup a first or maybe a first plus for Harrison Jr., I would do that in a heartbeat because you've seen more from a couple games of Michael Wilson than you have 2 years with Marvin Harrison. Part of that's Kyler's fault. Part of that is on the offensive coordinator. But I really like Michael Wilson. I mean, I still like Marvin Harrison Jr., but I don't think they can coexist in the offense together. People probably think that's crazy, but they're too similar. I don't think it'll work. Um, Back to the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence also had a lost fumble. I'm over Trevor Lawrence. I think it's very Kyler Murray-esque. He's holding the Jaguars back. Tootin is supposed to get more involved than what he did. I haven't seen it, but Strange back at tight end. He was key to this team. Washington was key to this team. Myers had a solid game, but I don't know why they traded for Myers because it seems redundant with Parker Washington. They'll obviously get Brian Thomas Jr. hopefully back week 13. And then Travis Hunter will be back next year. So I'm not sure why they went with Myers. Maybe he was just the cheapest option to get a veteran quality player in. I don't know. But I think the Jaguars were outplayed by by the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals should have won this game. I don't regret picking the Cardinals. I think it should have gone their way.
Yeah, um, I'm not disappointed, and congratulations to Liam Cohen because he seems like he's really turning around this team. Also, they don't have their first round pick next year, so they're making the Browns' first round pick worse and worse and worse with all these victories that they already have. So they're already not going to pick inside the top 10, in my opinion. So they've already cleared that.
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
So the Browns thought that they had this gravy train for a bit there, and it just didn't pan out. They also got the Panthers week one before, and I don't even know what the Panthers were doing in week one. If they would have started Dowdle from the beginning, then perhaps the Panthers would have won week one. But I digress from that. And anything else on this one here? We have 4 matchups after this.
I think the Jaguars project to maybe be a 9-8 team the rest of the way. I think they'll probably split with the Titans and beat the Jets, or maybe they'll beat the Titans twice and lose to the Jets, and then I think they'll lose their other matchups because I'm not sure that they'll beat the Colts or the Broncos.
We will see. Right. Let's hop over to the Falcons at the Saints. You and I picked the Saints. Jerome picked the Falcons. Surprising here, Kirk Cousins returns to the lineup and they win 24-10. Chuck was not as great as his last start was, but they did sprinkle a lot of Taysom Hill in on this game, which was a little puzzling. And Alvin Kamara was injured, and people should have added Neal by now. And the diagnosis is a sprained MCL, but I also don't see them rushing Kamara back this season.
I think Kamara's done. I know you really like him. I think he's done. Olave was heavily targeted, and Blake Groupie lost his job missing 2 field goals in this one. I mean, that would have got them within 1 score and maybe would have changed how things went. But yeah, I thought the Saints would win this. I thought Kirk Cousins would be a little bit shakier. The Falcons didn't really look that great on offense, but they did enough.
Absolutely. All right. Hop over to a better game here with the Eagles at the Cowboys. You and Jerome picked the Eagles. I picked the Cowboys. This feels like a theme. You're ganging up on me this week. But the Eagles dominate the first half, and the Cowboys come back in the second and win 24-21. Jalen Hurts scores 3 total touchdowns. AJ Brown finds the box score with 10 targets in this one, going 8, 110, and 1. And Dak adds 3 touchdowns himself, and Pickens appears to have taken over the wide receiver 1. He had 9 targets, 9 catches, so that's like a quarterback's best friend to know that if you throw in that direction, he's going to catch it. 146 yards and a touchdown, and he is a little banged up, but I do project him to play this week. So
I don't know what the deal with the Eagles is and why they can't figure anything out, but based on how the first half went, the Eagles should have won that game pretty handedly. They didn't though. So you got the victory, but
you're better.
I mean, not even a field goal, not even 1 touchdown in the second half. If they got 1 touchdown, they would have won.
You're not wrong.
Barkley has been wildly ineffective this year. Madden curse, Super Bowl hangover, overusage. Like what do you think the issue is?
I don't think they're using him enough in games right now. I understand what you mean with the overusage. It was last week or last year, and not last week. And so if that's all come to roost, I don't believe it has, but obviously we're in a spot here where we have to consider everything with Barkley, and he's doing okay, like not bad enough to get out of starting lineups, but not great enough where he would have been the number 1 overall pick. So he's running back 14 13 on the season right now. So he's between Ashton Genty and Brees Hall.
I think they need to find a way to balance their offense and rush more with Bigsby and Shipley as well. So they need to have like a modified three-headed rushing attack. Like obviously Barkley have the lead role, but mix in these other two guys, give him a breath, like wear out the defense. I I am getting to the point where I'm tired of this Jalen Hurts offense where they over rely on him and it is getting uglier and uglier, this offense. They had some bright spots in this game and finally got Brown involved, but I I'm getting to the point where I have to agree with Jeff that I hate how this offense looks.
It just looks terrible. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what they are. Barkley had 10 carries in this game. That's unacceptable for what he makes. That's unacceptable for what he meant to the offense last year. Now, that's not saying in 2 months we don't find out that he was dealing with a high ankle sprain the whole season or a strain of some sort and they were managing his carries. Right now, with the information that I have, it's unacceptable. And I hope to find out that the Eagles are lying because that would be a fun, interesting offseason story to watch a draft pick potentially be taken away from them on this injury report thing. So I don't like Sirianni. I think the Eagles could move off of Sirianni as early as next year. They moved off of Andy Reid. They moved off of Doug Peterson, and they all won or went to Super Bowls. So I don't think Sirianni is fireproof just because he's won a Super Bowl with Philly.
All right. I want to move on to this ugly matchup next. The Buccaneers at Rams. All three of us picked the Rams. All three of us got it right. It was a blowout. I mean, I was not expecting it to be this bad, but Baker did get hurt in this game, and it was never close one time. That's all I have to say about that.
Yep. Baker exited in the first half, though, as we were mentioning there, sprained AC joint. They're making it sound like he's going to miss minimal time, which I thought maybe the Panthers had a shot at winning this division with Mayfield out. But man, the team is just banged up from the offensive line to the running back, I should say. Wide receivers, they're just across the board very fragile. And it's funny because Stafford throws 3 touchdowns, 2 to Davante Adams. And we thought Stafford was going to be the fragile one this year. We thought Stafford was going to be the one with the bad back. And Davante Adams were like, why are they adding a aging wide receiver? And he's got 12 touchdowns on the year already. So to me, this is insane, but I think the Rams might be the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year, as of right now.
I agree. I think they are, especially out of the NFC. I think whatever treatments Stafford's taking, the hyperbaric chamber or whatever, obviously it's helping. I mean, Bray Lewis used to do it into his mid-late 30s, so I think it's helping. And I don't know what it is with the Rams, though. Short yardage, red zone passing touchdowns instead of handing the ball off to a running back like a reasonable person. Because I think the red zone is the highest percentage chance of throwing a turnover, but yet Stafford has a 30-1 touchdown to interception ratio or something like that. So he should also be the leader in the MVP race, especially from the quarterback position. And you can argue Jonathan Taylor, who that's kind of going down now, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, which I think should be number 2 in the MVP race. Some other quarterbacks might make it back. Not right now, they won't. Josh Allen hasn't been good enough, but it's mostly been his supporting cast. Baker has been too banged up to to be in that race now. So I think it's just Stafford by himself, unless you want to count Davis Mills with the Texans.
I know you were talking about Stafford's treatment, and I I know that this is a conspiracy theory on my part, but I think that this was the Favre treatment where he got to miss camp and didn't need to retire and or fake retire, and it was his way to come in fully healthy. And they're running with that story, though.
Has Stafford won an MVP?
Nope.
Okay, I'm all for Stafford getting an MVP. All his service with the Lions getting beat up and not recognized as one of the top quarterbacks in his prime. I think this he should get it. This might be his last chance to get one. I absolutely think he should get it.
He did win an MVP, the
Oh
offensive
yeah, with
MVP of the 2015 Pro Bowl.
oh nice. Oh, that doesn't count. That doesn't mean anything.
Got a good chuckle from you, and also got you to pay attention to what I was saying.
I know of late there's been a lot of me saying he's approaching the end of his career, but he's one of my favorite quarterbacks of the past 20 years, and glad he's winning meaningful football after his service with the Lions. And hopefully he goes out on top.
Absolutely. But I don't think this will be his last year. I think next year might be his last year. I think they'll give the Rams a shot to draft a quarterback and sit behind him 1 year, if I had to make an educated guess.
They're going to have 2 first-round picks in this draft class, so they'll have the ammo. Team's pretty built out, so they can take the gamble. They can take the swing.
Absolutely. All right. So, last but not least, we have the Panthers at the 49ers. We all picked the 49ers. The 49ers won. Panthers blew multiple opportunities in this game. Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions, but they lose 20-9. Rico Dowdle should have been fed more. He had 74 yards off of 10 touches, so that seems like a missed opportunity from the Panthers, especially at 11-point game. It's within reach for most of the game. CMC here, on the other hand, had 31 touches and 142 yards total. So they're just feeding him left, right, and center right now. So interesting approach with Christian McCaffrey, considering everything that has went on in his career. So that's all I'll say there.
Yeah. Pearsall was shut out, and Kittle potentially could have had a touchdown, but that went for an interception. I think Purdy was playing hero ball. I think he saw the success that Mac Jones had, and Mac Jones wasn't a world beater or anything, but he was pretty solid in his relief. And Purdy was trying to prove something to the doubters, questioning his price tag. But unfortunately, he forced a lot of terrible throws. Didn't look right. I don't know whether it was mental. I don't know whether it was tied to his injury. Um, just trying too much, but it did not look good. The only saving grace for him is the other quarterback did not look good on the other team, and McCaffrey did enough to win the game for them.
Yeah, it looked like a true revenge game, so it definitely looked like that. All right, anything else to put a bow on week 12?
Nope.
Put a pretty bow on it. All right, let's hop over to our week 13 preview. And bye weeks this week, there are absolutely none for Thanksgiving, and that's so the NFL can make sure that there's games on Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. So I think we have one more week of bye weeks, week 14, which is inconvenient for fantasy owners. But the first matchup here, and you're up first, is the Packers at the Lions. Who you taking in this one?
Sorry, I'm just flipping a couple picks real quick last minute.
Look at you, tinkering on the fly here.
I'm gonna go the Detroit Lions. I think they're offensively the better team. so I will go with them. I do think it should be a good game, though.
Yeah, I think their defenses are going to be pretty close overall, but I think Detroit has the better offense and are at home on the short week. So give me the Lions in this one as well. Flip over to the Chiefs at the Cowboys. And in this matchup here, the Cowboys could potentially be very high scoring against the Chiefs. They're at home. This is gonna be a tough game. This is probably like a 31-30 game. And the Chiefs have been terrible in one-score games this year. I'm going to take the upset here in the Cowboys. Who are you taking?
Well, I will be rooting for the Cowboys, but I think the smart money's on the Chiefs. So in the Cowboys versus Indians matchup, I'm going the Chiefs.
My thought process, not that it matters, is the Cowboys added to their defense, and their defense has been better. So if they can get pressure on Mahomes and stop the run, then their offense should be able to do enough to win the game, especially if George Pickens plays. That's the big one right there. Who would have thought we would have said that?
I think you can't count Mahomes out. I don't think the Cowboys defense is that great, and I don't think the Chiefs rely on their run game that much anyway. So
31
Chiefs,
touches with Hunt.
yeah, but that was how to attack the Colts defense. Cowboys defense is different. They're going to torch them through the air, is my guess.
Absolutely. All right. We have the Bengals at the Ravens up next. This is our Thursday night game. Who are you taking in this one with Joe Burrow returning?
Oh man.
This is a hard one.
It's a hard one. I'm still going Ravens in this one. I don't think that they should play Joe Burrow. I'd be more than happy if the Bengals won and beat the Ravens. But I just can't count on him coming fresh back from injury to do that. Especially he's probably going to be down Higgins for this week. Yes, he's getting Chase back, but Higgins is out. I don't know. We'll see. I will root for the Bengals, but expect the Ravens to pull it out.
I'm going to go the Ravens as well. It's a home game for them. Their backs are up against the wall. Short week. Burrow starts the seasons typically slow, so I expect him to come out of the gate slow. And that's all the reasons that I need for the Ravens to pull out the victory here. They don't need to be great. They just need to be decent in this one. And Derrick Henry could run all over the Bengals defense. So we will see there. In theory, but Lamar hasn't been running, and I think that's been hurting Henry a little bit. So I think Lamar, since his injury, has not run nearly the same amount that he had pre-injury.
On top of that, Henry is a slow build-up running back. So if you hit him in the backfield, he's not going anywhere. And that's proven true for any team that has cared to attack him that way.
Absolutely. Next matchup's our Black Friday matchup on Amazon Prime. Bears at the Eagles here. Bears coming in off of a very hot streak, and the Eagles coming off of a sour loss. I expect the Eagles to hold their home fort here and get the victory because their backs are kind of more against the wall. The division's still there, so let's not get that twisted. But they're being questioned by the national media now, so almost across the board. Who do you got in that one?
I'm going to go the Eagles, I think. This is where the Bears' schedule gets really hard.
This could be a game where the Bears do pull off the upset, but I'm not betting on it. All right. So our next matchup here is the Cardinals at the Buccaneers, and who you got in this one?
Oh boy. If Baker's missing this week, oh man, this is tough. Because if Baker was healthy and playing, it'd be Buccaneers hands down. But I think the Cardinals defense is getting healthy and they played the Jaguars so well. I feel like it's going to be a close matchup. I'm not sure what Teddy Bridgewater can do with this offense, but Bucky Irving was, I think, playing this week, And what's he going to be like? I don't know, Jeff. I don't know. I tentatively have the Buccaneers here. I reserve the right to switch come game day.
Yeah, you don't love Tucker going back to the bench, but we'll see. We'll see.
Who do you have in this matchup?
I am going the Buccaneers, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah.
Even if Baker plays, I don't feel great about it. And the reason being is I don't know how healthy he's going to be, even if he does play. All right, Falcons at Jets gets our Sunday kicked off here. And it's going to be Kirk Cousins versus Tyrod Taylor. Never would have thought that would have been the case going into the season, but here we are. Man, I believe that the Falcons will squeak this one out, but it won't be pretty. Alex, who are you taking in this one? I know. You got to think about each one.
I'm gonna go the Jets in this one.
You got to go with the poll, but there's no poll in some of these games. Like there's okay, you just read two teams. I don't feel anything. Completely numb towards these two teams.
No, I'm going the Jets. It's an away game for the Falcons. It's an outdoor game. It's even though the Jets traded away two of their defensive players, they're still playing pretty well on defense. Tyrod is playing smarter than Fields, if not that much better. They still have Brees. I don't know. It'll be a close game. I'm just gonna go with the Jets. I think the Jets find a way to win at least one more game this season.
All right. Texans at the Colts here. Alex, you're getting it kicked off with your team here.
Realistically, I think the Texans have a good chance to beat the Colts. For the reverse jinx, though, I'm gonna pick the Colts in this one. Hopefully that helps the Texans.
Yeah, I think the Colts get right after going home and playing in the Dome. I think Daniel Jones plays much better inside the Dome. I think that's going to be a theme this year.
I think this is gonna come down to how effective is Jonathan Taylor gonna be in this one, and can the Texans' offense actually score points? Like those are what it's gonna come down to because Texans defense, I would think would nullify the Colts passing offense. And I don't know if they have enough to stop Jonathan Taylor, but we'll see. The Texans offense has to at least score 2 touchdowns and a couple field goals to have a chance. We'll see.
Right. So I'm going Colts in that one, and we're going to stick right in the same division. It's the Jaguars at the Titans. And in this matchup, I do believe that there's a chance that the Titans could win this matchup. I did allude to that earlier, but I still have to go the Jaguars in this matchup, but I don't feel great about it.
I'm taking the plunge, Jeff. I'll do it for you. I'm going Titans in this one. I do feel like the Titans are close to pulling off a win. I don't think the Jaguars are a very good team. The Titans defense has played okay, and we're seeing life from the quarterback, so let's go Titans.
Let's go Titans. All right. Next one up here is the Rams at the Panthers. I know you're going to take the plunge on this one as well. Is that correct, Alex?
No, I'm pretty handedly going Rams in this one.
Yeah, give me the Rams as well. Last week felt like our season was over, so there is that. If the Cardinals somehow upset the Buccaneers and we somehow upset the Rams, I'll feel much better, but that's not how I feel right now. All right, Saints at the Dolphins is the next matchup. I'm going to go the Dolphins off of a bye here, and I don't think it'll be particularly close, to be honest.
I agree. I'm also going the Dolphins here.
Could be my survivor pick of the week. We're getting slim pickings right now, so down to the final two of just taking Hail Marys. Could take the Jaguars against the Titans, but that one makes me super nervous. Could take this next one too, 49ers at the Browns. I still have the 49ers available. Shador Sanders, second start here. Alex, who are you taking?
I'm going 49ers.
I think this game's going to be much closer than you think.
No, I think it'll be close. It's just on paper, the 49ers offense is so much better than the Browns. The Browns have a running back.
All right. I am going to go the 49ers as well, but I don't feel great about it because of how their offense looked this last week. Also, their defense wasn't super great. Like, I think the Panthers' game plan was poor. So that's my Dave Canellis bash of the week. All right, next up is the Vikings at the Seahawks, and I'm going to go the Seahawks in this one. I don't think this matchup will be particularly close. Unfortunately, I can't pick the Seahawks again after last week in Survivor, but I can pick them here.
Yeah, I'm going the Seahawks as well. Vikings are going to start Max Brosmer, which I think will actually be an upgrade from what JJ McCarthy has been of late. But it's in Seattle, and Seattle has a good defense. So I also I think it will be close, Jeff, because I think Brian Flores is going to dial up the heat because the way to get at Sam Darnold is to blitz the crap out of him. So
Was Brian Flores there last year?
What?
Was Flores there last year?
Yes.
Then Darnold's practiced against his defenses multiple times in the last year. So I think Darnold might have the game plan there.
Okay. But I think the Seahawks win. I just think it'll be uglier than people think.
Yeah, JSN should have a big game though.
Yes.
Interesting
I love some
though.
JSN.
It's interesting because Darnold played for them last year. He practiced against this defense, so something's got to give here. We're gonna see who took the most notes from last year and who grew more, I guess. All right, Bills at the Steelers. Alex, you are up.
Well, I'm going Bills. I don't trust the Steelers. I think the Bills have to end their skew right here.
Yep, go Bills. They've had more than enough hiccups this year and more than in previous years. This is a team that, with the schedule that they had, should have went 17-0, but here we are with, 4 or 5 losses already. So I don't think their playoff hopes are in jeopardy at all. But we can hop over to the next one here. The Raiders at the Chargers. This very well could be my survivor pick here in the Chargers. Alex, who are you taking?
I'm taking the Chargers.
How do you take the Raiders at this point?
No, but the Chargers, their offensive line's banked up. They're a better team, and they activated Amarian Hampton's practice window, by the way.
I don't hate that. All right, you're up here with the Broncos at the Commanders. We could see Jaden Daniels. It doesn't look like that'll happen this week, though.
No, we will not see Jaden Daniels this week, and I'm going the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, give me the Broncos as well. If the Commanders were full strength, this would be a different story, in my opinion, but that is not the case. I just don't think the Broncos have looked great with the wins that they've been pulling off, especially offensively. So something's got to give there eventually, too. Yeah. I feel like that is a recycled line that I've said for a lot of teams. All right, last but not least, our Monday Night Football game, Giants at the Patriots. I did say last week with Jerome that my belief is that the Patriots will and should lose one of these games down the stretch because I feel like they could learn a lot from a loss versus just going in undefeated into the playoffs. And Drake May having his first playoff game cold, basically, and like without a lesson from a loss. But I can't bet that they're going to lose to the Giants here. They have one of the easiest strengths of schedule this year, and I'm going to go the Patriots.
I'm going the Patriots as well. I thought about the Giants, but I'm not there yet.
They're going to drop one that they shouldn't, and they should do that because that would help them immensely for the playoffs because they are playoff bound.
Yeah.
But I just can't pick that game just yet.
Yeah, I think they'll lose to a division opponent. If they should have more left.
Bills at home in Buffalo, pretty sure.
All right. Anything else to add before we close out here?
No, welcome back.
Yes. Daddy's home.
Riding a bike. Daddy's home.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading and listening to this episode. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy and with our handle at N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.